Hey folks, Pat here from DNS. This Madison area fishing report is current as of June 9th. Before we get started, just a couple quick things. Uh, Last Saturday, they had the Yahara Fishing Club had their kids fishing day down at the Rainbow Shelter right here behind the shop in Warner Park. It's a great event. They had a beautiful day for it. Had a great turnout. I think I heard they gave away over 250 rod combos. So yeah, great turnout, and I just wanted to thank the Yahara Fishing Club for hosting a great event. We provided the bait for them, but happy to do that because you get kids out fishing, and that's important, especially these days with all the distractions they have inside. But anyway, I want to thank all the volunteers. They do a great job, run a real smooth event down there. They had food and stuff for the kids, and I'd also like to take the opportunity to encourage anybody who or encourage everybody to get involved with the Yahara Fishing Club. They're a great group. They could use some fresh blood in there, and they've done a great bunch of work for fishing in Madison and continue to do so. So yeah, considering joining that group and getting involved, they really do a lot of great work. So thanks again. Um, the other big news, I guess, is that the PMTT is in town. So that's the Professional Muskie Tournament Trail. It's a national tournament series. So they're going to be on the Madison chain this weekend. So starting tomorrow, they're going to be fishing on Monona, Wabisa, and Kegonsa lakes, um, and that goes all day Saturday and most of Sunday. They're going to be taking off out of three different launches. So on Monona, they'll be at Olin launch. Wabisa, they'll be at the Green Lantern, and Kegonsa at the State Park Ramp. So I guess just take that into consideration when you're thinking about launching somewhere. And those lakes will be a little more crowded this weekend, but I do want to wish everybody that's in town for that good luck. And yeah, it's a cool event. Otherwise, I guess as far as the report goes, we had it was nice of the heat to lay off us this last week, but it's still been dry. We could use a little rain for sure. Looks like a pretty nice weekend. Saturday looks great. Sounds like there's maybe a chance of rain on Sunday, and then maybe some uh, warmer weather coming later next week. Looked like 70.3 degrees on the buoy on Lake Mendota this morning, which is about where we were at this week last time. We've had, like I said, some cool weather. Heard 75 degrees this week down on Wabisa, so water temps have been holding pretty steady down there as well. Of course, you'll find warmer water in shallow bays and protected areas. Generally around the chain, blue-green algae has become less of a problem in most places. Got the beach water quality report here. So yeah, you can see here it looks like most beaches are open, so that means the water quality is pretty good around town. Um, the other, I guess, maybe bigger problem is all the floating vegetation that's out there causing some headaches. What we need is a good thunderstorm to come through and blow a bunch of that stuff up on shore. Mendota and Monona bluegills are on beds, but it sounds like things are tapering off on Wabisa and Kegonsa. Um, the usual redworms, spikes, and waxies have been doing well for those gills, but the gills are also liking the thunderbugs we have here at the shop. I've talked to quite a few folks that say they like those quite a bit. And of course, those will be good for the perch when they get going here too. Largemouth bass remain shallow, but it sounds like some smallmouth are starting to move out deeper. Walleye are still being found in good numbers in slightly deeper water near breaks, mostly near shoreline. Leeches have been working well for both the smallmouth and the walleyes. Catfish action here on the north side continues to be good, but tapering off. And actually, speaking of leeches, those have been working well. Probably the best reports I've heard have been um, catfish coming to a leech under a bobber. Um, but anyway, yeah, also area rivers are all running low and clear this time. But we'll talk about a little bit more about that a little later here. So up on Cherokee, it's a weedy mess up there. But if you want to launch here at the school road launch, you can still launch there and get up in the channel and kind of sneak around some of those weeds. And of course, if you got a kayak or a canoe, you can pretty much get around in there. And there's good bass and pike up there pretty much year round. So down to the 113 bridge, like I mentioned, the catfish bite down there is starting to taper off, but still hearing about some good catches. The fish were actively spawning this last weekend, so I heard several reports of them, giant catfish just swimming right in the rocks, right by people's feet. It's pretty cool to see, I'm sure. And I'm sure there's still catfish milling about here in the North Bay. As far as uh, fish on Mendota goes, gills are up on beds. That's kind of the big news. Crappies are getting harder to find. Perch are still scattered, but once the weeds come up, they'll be starting to congregate in pockets and on weed edges. If you're into rock bass, I've been hearing about a lot of them being caught lately. Uh, like I said, a lot of bass are being caught in a lot of shallow areas, but the largemouth especially are shallow, but the smallmouth are starting to move out deeper, so out to some mid-lake humps. Um, Otherwise, the walleyes are also, near shoreline breaks, but they're starting to move out, to mid-lake humps too. On a sunny day like it is today, I'd look for those fish in 20 feet of water, maybe even more. But 20 feet of water would be a great place to start. Um, but I've been hearing about some white bass here in Warner Bay, but that trolling action that can be really hot this year just hasn't started yet. It should start soon, if not now. But yeah, haven't heard much in the way of trolling for white bass out there. Down to Tenney Park, I've been hearing about great catches. Really, some nice walleye, all species of bass, some dandy bluegills coming out of the river here and below the lock and dam, and then also on the breakwall side, on the lake side up here. So lots of good action on Mendota lately. Down to Monona, of course, you're going to have the Muskie tournament this weekend, but I have been hearing about bluegills are still on beds down there, pretty much all over the lake. Just got to get out and look around for them. Where the Yahara dumps here, I've heard about some good bass action down there, and a few walleyes actually at night. Um, I'd look for bluegills up here along the shore between Olbrick and all the way up through the Monona side of things, down into Squaw Bay or Weechawuk Bay. Turble Bay, I heard they were on beds over there. So, anywhere shallow, which of course would include Monona Bay, which was very, very weedy last week, but the county had the mowers in there. And so I hope, I'd assume the access down there is a lot better, and there should be gills on beds down there. Over to the wall, I've been hearing about at the Monona Terrace, been hearing about some good bluegill catches coming through there, and crappies during low light periods. Otherwise, I wish I had more to talk about in the way of muskie for the folks in town this weekend, but I haven't really heard anything much. I guess I heard about a few fish coming off Lake Wingra. I don't think that's part of the tournament, but smaller fish mostly. Some good bass action over there, and of course, millions and millions of tiny bluegills. Um, and then I guess down onto Wabisa, Upper Mud. I haven't heard much specifically out of there this in the last week or so, but the dredge hole up here is a great place to look for fish. And of course, shallow flats in here should be holding some gills right now. I've been hearing about some gills in the Lake Farm Park area. Here on the north end, I'd assume down towards Green Lantern and out from there too, going to have a lot of muskies. But again, you're going to have that muskie tournament on Wabisa this weekend. As far as bass go, I've heard some good largemouth action up shallow. Haven't heard much in the way of smallmouth, and again, down here, not much to report for the muskie folks. Some bluegills down here in the South Bay. But yeah, not much to report for the muskie folks, at least that I hear coming out of Wabisa. They were dredging in here in Babcock. They've been at it for a while now, so I'd assume they're pretty close to done, or done. I just haven't heard specifically. Otherwise, down here to Keeganza, this is also part of the tournament. I'm not sure it's going to see the traffic that Wabisa and Monona are going to see. And honestly, I'm not even sure I've heard of a muskie caught in Keeganza. But the bluegills have been biting down there still. It sounds like they're coming off their beds, but I've definitely heard of some folks getting fish with eggs in them still. Great places to look for those fish would be the fish camp area. I've also been hearing about some great walleye catches on weed edges, and down out from the state park, I've heard about some fish down there, some pike around. And the water's been really clear down there, so sounds like Keeganza's been pretty pleasant to fish lately. Kind of for a change, that lake can be pretty hit or miss, at least in my experience. Down to Lake Koshkonong, haven't heard much specifically in reports here through the shop, but they did have the AIM walleye tournament down here this last weekend. I was looking at the results from that online. They had some really impressive catches, some bags out there. Of course, these guys are pros and they know what they're doing, but some guys did really well down there. Sounded like a lot of folks were doing well on cranks, flicker shads and that, trolling flicker shads shallow. But the winning couple of top boats, I think both the first and second place winners were trolling crawler harnesses. So I don't know if that tells you anything. It's going to be that time of year, I suppose. Up to Jefferson Dam, there have been a nice mixed bag of fish up there. Haven't heard of any big cats up there just yet, but white bass up there, and smallmouth. Just a nice mixed bag of fish at pretty much any dam where you go. Speaking of dams, Beaver Dam Lake is still sounds like it's still rocking and rolling over there for the eater catfish. So if you want to get some eaters, it's been a great bite going on over there. Where else we at here? I've heard about some great yellow bass up here on Crystal Lake. So if you like yellow bass, they can be a delicious fish if you clean them right. Otherwise, over to the river. I haven't heard, the walleyes and that have moved out. I think the white bass are pretty much done. Probably going to still find some hanging around. But the dam is just a great mixed bag place to go. You never really know what you're going to catch. Heard about some catfish starting to move in to some of their usual haunts. Fishing up on Lake Wisconsin for walleyes has been great from what I hear. A lot of fish, I think in 15 feet of water or less sounds about right. Also been hearing about crappies near Wood and some bluegills in kind of the usual spots, Wayland's Gray, the Fingers, anywhere shallow down here to Moon Valley. Been hearing about some good panfish action all over the lake. Otherwise, upstream here we got, I guess I haven't heard much out of Portage or the Dells Dam, but Dells Dam, same thing. Any dam's going to be a great mixed bag of fish this time of year. On Castle Rock Lake, I've been hearing about some walleye and white bass being caught shallow, mostly trolling. I guess Pete and Well, kind of the same deal on both those lakes. Pete and Well sounds like a little better walleye action up there, and some crappie near Wood. Also, both those dams, again, fish factories up there. It sounds like the Mississippi River levels are back down, which is good to hear, and I've been hearing about some good walleye action in current seams, some white bass, panfish still, and some near shore, near Wood, crappies especially. Over to Milwaukee, not much going on over here on the lake side of things or on the salmon side of things. I did get one good report of some nice smallmouth action in the Milwaukee River. Otherwise, haven't heard much up in near Green Bay or anything, but of course that's a great place to go fishing for walleyes. All right. Otherwise, yeah, trout fishing around the area has been great, continues to be great. Of course, with the no rain that we've had, streams are running clear and a little low. I've also been hearing about some of the usual areas that might be be rocky or starting to silt in. So just like up here on the chain, we could use some good rain to flush some of that stuff out. But otherwise, I've been hearing about great hatches of fish, a lot of fish looking up. You got your usual kind of blue-winged olives and crane flies that are around, but in the evenings, a lot of small cream-colored mayflies and the larger sulfurs have been coming off in the evening. So that's always a great time to be out, and can run into a good hatch out there with those. Otherwise, June is when I'd start looking at more terrestrial imitations like ants and beetles and crickets, because it's that time of year. Otherwise, if fish aren't looking up, you got woolly buggers and nymphs that can be effective. On the spinning gear side of things, panther martins, tube jigs, and rapalas are fantastic. And of course, a worm under a bobber could be the most deadly bait that you can get for trout. Otherwise, I guess that does it for the report. I appreciate you tuning in, and leave your comments and catches below. We will talk to you next week. Take care.